In 1978, a wave of unrest swept across Iran. Mass protests ignited against the authoritarian Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Seen as a ruthless oppressor and a puppet of America, his regime faced fierce opposition. By January 1979, the Shah fled to the United States, leaving a power vacuum that allowed the enigmatic Ayatollah Khomeini to seize control. This event, now known as the Iranian Revolution, inspired Islamist movements across the Middle East, marking one of the first instances an Islamic state successfully overthrowing a Western-backed monarchy. On a cold November morning in 1979, a restless mob surrounded the US Embassy in Tehran. The sound of breaking glass echoed as militants surged forward, cutting off every exit. Inside, US diplomats raced against time to destroy sensitive documents containing secrets too dangerous to fall into enemy hands. Yet, despite their efforts, some files remained only partially destroyed. In the years that followed, the students pieced the shredded documents together, uncovering details about a covert operation in 1953 that installed the Shah's regime and crippled Iranian democracy. The story begins in the early 20th century, centered around a precious resource that would fuel decades of conflict: oil. In 1908, a British geologist discovered oil in southwestern Iran, which led to the establishment of the Anglo-Persian Oil Company the following year. Over the years, Iran became a significant producer of this substance, with the British-controlled company reaping 84% of the financial returns. In 1941, during the Second World War, Iran's monarch, Reza Shah Pahlavi, was forced to abdicate by the British and the Soviet Union due to his growing ties with National Socialist Germany. In his place, the young prince, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was crowned, with the hope that he would cooperate with the Allies. The new Shah would ultimately prove to be subservient. After the war, anti-British sentiment grew due to their control over Iran's oil. It reached a breaking point in 1951 when Mohammad Mossadegh, leader of the National Front Party and champion of oil nationalization, was elected prime minister. His election marked a turning point as he pursued the nationalization of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. The Shah was unable to stop him with his limited power. It's worth pointing out that Mossadegh was a democratically elected leader. He had charm, charisma. His popularity as prime minister gave him centralized control. Britain was furious over Mossadegh's nationalization of the oil industry. They froze Iranian assets and organized an international oil boycott. However, these measures failed to dislodge Mossadegh.
By the voice of the people, Winston Churchill is once again called to guide our destiny at a time of difficult uncertainty.
Winston Churchill returned to office in October. He decided to take more aggressive action. Knowing that Britain alone lacked the resources to execute his plot, Churchill first reached out to the United States for support. Unfortunately for him, the Truman administration had been inclined to support Mossadegh's nationalist policies and had no interest in removing him. But
Dwight Eisenhower becomes president by the greatest popular vote ever given a White House candidate.
In 1953, the British government initiated high-level discussions with the Eisenhower administration.
Looking remarkably fresh and robust, Sir Winston says they have come to talk over a few family matters.
The cunning Churchill and his associates crafted their words very carefully. It wasn't just about oil, they argued. It was a high-stakes battle in the Cold War. American officials listened as the British described an Iran slipping into Soviet hands, an image dark enough to push them past their caution. Next, British intelligence MI6 secured an alliance with the CIA, which already had concerns about Soviet influence in Iran, especially with the existence of the socialist Tudeh party, which Mossadegh made little effort to suppress. The coup was named Operation Ajax. Norman Derbyshire, an MI6 officer with extensive knowledge of Iranian affairs, was chosen to spearhead British efforts. On the American side, Kermit Roosevelt Jr., who worked in the CIA's Middle East division, was chosen to lead the operation. If his name sounds familiar, it's because he was the grandson of President Theodore Roosevelt. To execute the plan, they needed the Shah to sign two decrees, one dismissing Mossadegh and the other appointing General Zahedi, a staunch opponent of Mossadegh, as prime minister. Fearing backlash, the Shah resisted efforts by the CIA and MI6 to obtain his signature. Obviously, some foreign agents would not be able to push him into taking such a risk, so they devised a different strategy. The Shah's sister, Princess Ashraf, was exiled to France due to her vocal opposition of Mossadegh. Derbyshire, along with several agents, sought her help in persuading her brother to authorize the coup. After securing her support, she was flown to Tehran, though convincing the Shah still took time. Of course, they also had to undermine Mossadegh in the eyes of the public. So when Kermit Roosevelt entered Tehran with fake identification, he started buying off newspaper editors, columnists, and journalists. He had remarkable success. They ran articles against Mossadegh calling him a Jew, a communist, a homosexual, a British agent, ironically, anything to paint him as an enemy. With the Shah finally signing the decrees, they could move to the next step. Colonel Nassery, head of the Imperial Guard, delivering the decrees to Mossadegh. Predictably, Mossadegh would refuse to step down, providing probable cause for his arrest, paving the way for Zahedi to take power. On the midnight of August 15, Colonel Nassery, with tanks and machine gunners, approached Mossadegh's residence to carry out the coup. Yet, to their shock, there were 57 armed guards awaiting their arrival. When the Prime Minister read the decrees, he ordered the arrest of all the officers at his doorstep. It turned out that members of the Tudeh party discovered the plot and tipped off Mossadegh. The coup attempt failed, and the power dynamics shifted entirely. Mossadegh publicly condemned the Shah's actions and ordered the arrest of many pro-Shah officers. Panicked, the Shah fled to Italy the next day. With CIA assistance, General Zahedi also went into hiding. The Prime Minister emerged as a hero among his supporters, standing firm against royal and foreign intervention. The CIA and MI6 declared the operation a failure and called off the coup. Kermit Roosevelt was not a man to accept defeat, however. Orders be damned, he could not walk away. With sheer determination, he returned to the streets of Tehran. The next chapter would be bloody, but Roosevelt was ready to see it through. Roosevelt came to realize that the only way to topple Mossadegh was to destabilize Iran from within. As a result, anti-Mossadegh propaganda intensified.
In Tehran, it looked as if Mossadegh would soon be named president, and on his orders, troops occupied the Shah's palaces and surrounded Parliament. And then the people themselves took a hand.
British agents posed as Tudeh party members and Mossadegh supporters, causing chaos in the streets by attacking mosques, homes, and businesses. This terrified conservative Iranians and created the perception that Mossadegh had lost control. At the same time, pro-Shah demonstrations were staged to attack pro-Mossadegh news stations, making it appear as though popular support for the monarchy was growing. The violent clashes between these groups escalated the chaos. Eventually, at the gate of Mossadegh's residence, the ground shook with the chant, "Death to Mossadegh, long live the Shah." Armed CIA-backed mercenaries surged forward, and the Prime Minister's guards braced for the fight of their lives. For Mossadegh, these were the last moments of his dream for a free, sovereign Iran. After the incident, General Zahedi declared himself Prime Minister and ordered Mossadegh's surrender. Mossadegh saw the growing opposition, then decided to step down and to hand himself over. He would spend the rest of his life under house arrest, isolated and alone.
Mossadegh and his government were swept from power in favor of General Zahedi, the man appointed by the Shah in the first place.
The Shah returned to Iran with more authority than ever before, maintaining strong ties with Western powers. Britain and the United States were granted 50% of Iran's oil earnings, which was less than in the pre-nationalization period, yet marked the coup as a significant success. To consolidate the Shah's hold on power, the CIA assisted in establishing SAVAK, a brutal secret police force trained by Mossad in Israel. The Shah's regime became increasingly autocratic, suppressing opposition with ruthless force. These repressive policies ultimately culminated in the 1979 Iranian Revolution, whose repercussions continue to resonate to this day. In the United States, the coup's success impressed Eisenhower and American policymakers, showing them just how far they could shape the world to serve their interests. This opened a new chapter in US foreign interventions, one from which the world has yet to recover.